Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the most exciting makeup releases of 2019. And just a disclaimer, these are my personal most exciting releases, not the general public. I felt like I couldn't really speak for others. I think everyone has such a different view of what's exciting to them. So some of these might have been also exciting for the general public, but there are definitely some that might be just mostly exciting to me or someone that's closer to indie makeup. And this is in no particular order, so it's not, what released first up until now in December. I just started writing down some releases that I could remember off the top of my head, and then for the rest of it, I kind of scrolled down Trend Mood's feed and just thought back on what was even released this year because there's so many things. So the first one I'm going to talk about, because it was, to me, probably one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting release, and that was the Cliona Stained Glass collection. I think that they just really knocked it out of the park. There's so many options, there's so many different colors, and the whole multi-chrome aspect is really exciting because up until then, for the most part, multi-chromes have been in loose formulations, but they released all pressed formulations, which is amazing. Definitely easier to use because I know I haven't used my loose pigments as much because they are loose and they're so messy. So I was really excited about this release, and they had so many colors to choose from, and they're just really beautiful and silky and just so metallic. There's so much impact. And also, I love my multi-chromes, so that's why it's the first thing that popped in my head when I started making this list. The next release is pretty recent, and it's the Melt Cosmetics Amor Eterno collection with the 2 palettes, 4 eyeliners, and 1 highlighter and brushes and other things, I think, and some lipsticks. This was such a beautiful and thought out collection, and the meaning behind it. The palettes are beautiful color stories. I think the palette Morte is definitely a bit more unique. Vida is still really beautiful, but the color story is probably a little less unique. The packaging is so unique and a lot of thought went into it. So I think this definitely got a lot of people excited, especially after so many palette releases this year. I think this was such a major standout. I have so many on my list, so I'm gonna try to kind of speed it up a little bit. Next one is the ABH palettes and the foundation. So ABH palettes meaning Norvina 1, Norvina 2, Norvina 3, the ABH Jackie Aina, Curly Bible, not so much. I think that one kind of blended in, and I think the other palettes were much more exciting. I know there was a lot of talk about how quickly everything got released towards the end of the year, but that aside, I think those palettes are so gorgeous. I love the color stories, and I definitely see where Norvina was going with those. I think they're a colorful makeup lover's dream. And also the foundation was super hyped because it was the second foundation that ABH has ever come out with, and it was definitely hyped up a bit by the brand and by Norvina. I personally don't like the foundation, but I know a lot of people do enjoy it, so I do think that was a pretty exciting release. Next up, semi-recent, and it's the Tati Beauty palette. I think it's like something Warm Neutrals Volume 1 or something like that, but that one definitely long-awaited palette from Tati, and I think she did an amazing job. While I know that some people might find it boring, I think it's a really smart way to lay it out and make it easy from anyone who's a beginner to a working professional. I love that it has the different textures and the colors are kind of paired together. It just seems very cohesive, and it seems like a really smart first release because it is kind of just the base eyeshadow palette, and now she can just build up on top of that. So I'm definitely excited to see what other palettes she comes out with next year. The next release is from Huda, and it's 3 nude palettes depending on the skin tone, and I think this was such an exciting revolutionary idea for a brand to do, and I think a lot of people were very excited about it because it just makes a lot of sense to do a palette for different skin tones. That way nobody has to feel left out, because brands do like to cater to lighter skin tones, so they do put in a lot of lighter transition shades that might not work for deeper skin tones. So I think this was such a great idea, and I really hope to see a lot more brands doing this next year. The next one is an indie release, and then that was the Melt Cosmetics Whale Song palette. This was a highly anticipated palette. It did have quite a bit of a long pre-order, but it was totally worth the wait. It's a really beautiful theme. I loved the packaging, and I love the colors inside. The shadows are super pigmented and blendable, just as expected for Menagerie shadows. And I think a lot of people were excited for a blue-green color theme. There was definitely a trend in 2019. The next one is the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. I know when I first saw it, I was kind of like it wasn't anything special, a lot of neutrals, but that was like the photo that they had for the website. But then when I saw people's actual photos of the live palette, it has so much depth. There's so many beautiful shimmers, and of course the Natasha Denona formula is amazing. And I did pick up the palette, and the mattes are this really awesome, like almost gel formula, so there's zero kick up and they blend like immediately. It's just amazing palette. I think it's really a staple, and I also love that there's a lot more smaller size eyeshadows for that price, because then you feel like you're getting a lot more. The next one is the Fenty Beauty bronzers. I think this was such an anticipated release because Fenty Beauty is known to cater to all skin tones and being very inclusive, and so they came out with a big range of bronzers for all skin tones. I have the shade In the Sun, and I absolutely love it. I use it almost every day, and I know I'm gonna hit pan on it in 2020 because it's just that good. The next release I want to talk about was the Sugar Pill Fun Size Palette, and I think that was such a great move on Sugar Pill's part, and I really hope that they make more of these smaller palettes, and a lot of people were really excited. I think pastels and just bright colors in general have become a lot more popular in 2019, which I love to see. There's definitely been a little bit of a pastel trend, so it was really right on time for Sugar Pill to release, and also love that it is a smaller palette because their pan size is just way too big. And I think that holds back a lot of people from buying. And while it is not the same formula as their regular size pans, because these are pressed pigments, they were still very workable, very pigmented, buildable, blendable, everything. I really enjoyed it. I was a little put off by how perfect their swatches and their oversaturated release photo looked, because when I got the palette I was like, wait a minute, this does not really look as bright as the photo. And then when I swatched it, I was kind of a little iffy. My palette personally didn't swatch the greatest, so I was really skeptical, but then when I used it, I really fell in love with it, and I cannot imagine not having it in my collection. Next up is Kaleidos Makeup. They released a bunch of eyeshadow palettes this year, and highlighters, and brushes, and they've just been really knocking it out of the park. And I am so excited, and I know a lot of other people are very excited to see what they have in store for next year. Their packaging is very sleek, very beautiful and detailed. Their highlighters are in tins, which is super cute and innovative. I don't think I've ever seen something like that. And I think overall it wasn't just me, and a lot of people were really excited about the brand. So the next release is from Cover FX, and it's the monochromatic blush and highlight duos. Everybody has been talking about those since they released. I still have yet to try one because I'm holding out for the peach version, but it's been like sold out on and off, and I'm kind of waiting for a Sephora sale for it to be stocked to grab one. But everybody loves them so much. I think it's a great idea to pair a highlight and a blush that are the same in tone, and the packaging looks really sleek and high-end, and I just really want to get my hands on it. The next releases are all from ColourPop. They've had so many releases this year in 2019, but not all of them that great. But their standout releases have been their monochromatic 9-pan palettes. There's been so much excitement over them, and I love that because I think it's really a great idea for anybody who loves purples. They can have a purple palette. Somebody who doesn't really like purples but loves greens can buy the green palette, and also the quality of them and performance has been pretty on par with everything else, so it's really great to know you can buy any of these eyeshadow palettes and they will be great quality. Their other exciting release was more colorful products, and that was the gel liners, the pen liners, and the colored mascaras. All super exciting. Also really amazing for them to come out with such a variety of bright colors and different products at an affordable price, because I do find it difficult to find colored mascaras, colored eyeliners that are affordable and good quality. I know there's definitely brands that carry those, so that was really excited for me, and I know a lot of people were excited about that as well. The next two, and also the last two releases I want to talk about, are from indie brands. The Olive and the Vintage Rose palettes from Give Me Glow, I think, were major standouts. Got a lot of people excited because of the color schemes, especially the Vintage Rose palette. I think that was such a unique color story and a really beautiful pairing of colors that was very unique, and I haven't seen any like mainstream brand really come out with something like that. And I saw that a lot of people were really inspired by that palette. And then the olive palette is just grungy green. So the camera cut out because my memory was full. So I don't know where I left off, but I know I was talking about Give Me Glow. I'm just excited to see what they release in 2020. The last release I wanted to talk about was from Divina, and it's their Willy Wonka Exploders. I think this was such an exciting, beautiful launch. Very unique because the texture is so like glittery and reflective, and I haven't seen anything like that from any of the mainstream brands. So I felt very excited for this release because I couldn't wait to add these to my collection because they were so unique, and I know a lot of other people were really excited about them and really enjoy them as well. And I love pairing them with the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette. And I'm so excited to see what Divina does in 2020. They're one of my favorite indie brands, and they've had other very exciting launches as well in 2019. For example, they've also launched multi-chrome collections that are much more affordable than the usual loose and press multi-chrome. And that's great because it's made multi-chromes much more available to everyone. So those are my most exciting makeup releases of 2019. And I would love to hear what your most exciting releases of 2019 are. So sound off in the comments. I'm sure that there's some releases that I missed because there's been so many this year that I just can't keep track of them all. I will also be doing a video on what I thought were the most mediocre releases of 2019, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.